I wrote this library called Figwheel, and it's been mentioned a couple times, and that just built the pressure up. I've never talked in front of a group of people before at a conference, and so the more times that Figwheel gets mentioned, this pressure starts building. I'm like, oh, great. But now I have some expectations to fill. So Figwheel is basically live coding for ClojureScript. So if you're working on single-page applications and you want to do it more rapidly and you don't want to go through the difficulty that I'm going to explain in a moment, that's what Figwheel is for. It also works on Node, but I'm going to concentrate on applications in the browser because that's where it's most understood. I was, believe it or not, really dissatisfied with the feedback loop you get when you're working on a front-end application in the browser. So, and this is the current state, right? We write code, we reload the browser, we lose our application state, and this is the key one right here. We lose the application state. And then, to verify, we manipulate the code back. We manipulate the application. We fill out a few form fields, and do other things, maybe tab through a couple forms to get the application back into the state so that we can test or verify the behavior that we just modified. And then we do it over, and we do it over, and we do it over again. And now what's not on the slide is just how painful that is. You do the same, once you fill out the same form 3 times, your mind turns off. Or mine does. Maybe some people really like that. But my mind just kind of starts going blank, and I get out of flow. Right? This is a very staccato experience that just breaks your creativity. Or mine. You may have a different experience. Some people may like this. It seems like they do because a lot of people are doing it. All right. So that led me to this very simple question. What experience do I want? And the answer came very quickly. I want to change my code and then see what changed in the application. I don't want to, fill out another form field with my first name and my last name and some fake town name that I thought of just now. So I came to this experiment. I said, well, what if I just do that? What if I just take a file that's been compiled and reload it back into my application live? And, I had some strange feelings about this. That was, maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Nobody else seems to be really doing it. I was worried about the high potential for instability. I'm just cramming JavaScript back into the browser every single time I compile a file. And I was worried about the burden of paying attention to the load time side effects of a file, right? Now I not only have to think about my code, but I have to think about what it's doing as it's getting loaded. Now, what happened was, I made this little experiment. I created a file that reloaded itself. And I found the feedback, amazing. I found the fact that I could, change a file and then see the changes. It was an aha moment. And it's funny, the experience of it is different than hearing about it or watching people do it. When you finally experience it, you're like, what the heck, this is the return on investment for doing this, for thinking about the load time side effects, is very, very high because you're iterating so much faster. And you're actually enjoying yourself because you're staying in this state of flow. So ultimately, I became an advocate. People need to experience this at least. And on the extreme side, everybody needs to do this all the time. This is the best thing in the world. You got to try it. You really do. I mean, you really do. But there's a trade-off, and the trade-off is, in order to get instantaneous feedback, you have to write reloadable code. And so the question becomes, oh, I have a special definition for reloadable code in this case. In order to get the experience you want to write code so that when it's changed and reloaded, you see the behavior change in your application. So that's a little different, right? You could have functions in a closure somewhere that, if you redefine them, they didn't get changed. And I have this other requirement that the apparent state of the application is unchanged. Again, so these are qualities that you can cultivate in your code, and it's really not that hard now. Can you guys hear me okay? Yes. Okay. So then the question becomes, how hard is it to write reloadable code? Well, Clojure has this culture of reloadability. And so because we isolate state transitions, and because we mostly deal with pure functions, and we're really careful about these things anyway, ClojureScript idioms are highly reloadable. But on the other hand, JavaScript APIs, the DOM, adding an event listener, you really only want to add that once, and you don't want to have to think about removing it and da-da-da. So the DOM is stateful to the max. It's really hard to work with in a reloadable way. So it requires strategy. But then something really, really good happened. React.js came along and lets you basically define the DOM as a function of the state. And so I'm going to ignore that. I think it's awesome. Does anybody else think React is awesome? I mean, it's awesome, right? And it's inherently reloadable, which, again, eliminates a big problem with writing reloadable code on the client side. So this is a threshold. This defines a threshold that we kind of moved past, where writing reloadable code became really easy, almost inherent in what you're doing. Which means that you can get instantaneous feedback if you just reload the code. All right. This slide is broken. Well, it's code I wrote. This slideshow is a React application. And, I'm going to change it. I happen to know where the bug is. I put this extra. Can you guys see this okay? Yes. All right. There's this extra G after JPEG. I'm going to save it. Now, Figwheel isn't running right now. So I'm going to do the thing, right? I'm going to reload the slideshow. And then, okay, we'll get there soon. Which slide was it you got? Okay, it's down here somewhere. And this is our experience, right? I changed it and I fixed the code. I recompiled it. I got the application back in the state, and it still doesn't work. That's because I need an S on this directory here. It's okay, though. I changed it. I'm going to reload the browser. All right? Everything's under control. I mean, this is how we do, every day. I'm used to it. You're used to it. We can do this. We can reload the browser. I mean, I forget what I was doing. Oh, yeah. That's what I was doing. I was showing you my house. I live in this plastic bubble here. No, I do. It's a literal bubble, and you may have known there's something about this shape that's near and dear to my heart. Okay, so I don't know which came first here. Actually, what could have been subconscious. I don't know, but and also there's this paint job I'm thinking about getting. All right. So I put this transparent image on here, and I wanted to position it over my dome. I thought I had it in the right position, but I don't. So that's a bug. I have to fix it. Are you guys ready to walk through all the slides again? No, okay. So maybe I'll do something about that. I will turn Figwheel on because I spent a long time working on it. For people, how many people use Figwheel? All right, that's good. That's great. How many people use ClojureScript? All right, that's awesome. So for people who use Figwheel, I have this feature, auto load false. So if you want to just do REPL development, you can just turn the auto loading off for a period of time. And because it's on the client, it's really quick to turn it on and off. So, but I have to reload it anyway to get this code because Figwheel wasn't on. All right. So here's where we were. Figwheel. All right. So we have to position, let's see. So that moved. Did you see that? So the DOM changed. The actual DOM on the page just changed. Now, granted, it's not like a Flappy Bird flying around, but this is kind of an amazing thing. It's a completely different experience than, say, walking through your slides over and over and over again. And this is how I wrote my slideshow. I had the power. Is that centered, you guys? Anyway, does that look good, or should I go with this paint job? Or I mean, all right. So this is a completely different experience. And again, it's experiential. Until you actually do it, you might think, yeah, I can live with it. My reload, it doesn't take that much time. But you should try it at least once. And you could write your own tools. I mean, this stuff is not, it's not that hard. Well, there's like 360 commits on the repository, but all right. So next, I have something much more exciting than, say, a slideshow, and that's a game. And the game is called Crashverse. So this is running in Figwheel as well. And so I had this idea on the plane about a game where a rocket with bad AI is moving across the universe, avoiding obstacles like that. Wait. I have to turn on resetting the planets. So the top level, when you're using Figwheel, the file is getting reloaded. So if you want to reset the planets and bring them into your atom every single time that you reload the file, just uncomment a reset the planets. And so now you have the red thing that the ship is trying to avoid. But there are more of them. This is a gray thing. No. And then Toby Crawley said, you really need to have a sun. So he added that himself. It was really cool. And then you have explosions as well. Wait, he just went right into that. Okay. Now you can change the properties. So this is live coding, right? You are just working, right, and experiencing. And you're like, the sun's kind of big. That red planet, it should probably be bigger. and it's really, let's watch that again. He gets blown up twice, really, because the collision, he comes back. Anyway, so it doesn't matter. So this gives me a chance to interact and have a conversation with the game as I built it. And so let's look at some of the things you can do when you're using Figwheel. Let's look at some of its features. What is going on here? All right. So I'm opening up the dev console so you can see the output here. All right, so like I said, you can modify, you can use the top level, right, as kind of a REPL. Right? So I just printed out my application state, and I can look at it. All right? That's really convenient. You can also say you're working on a function, and you want to see the output. I'm just going to print this function, the output of the function, and then I can change it a little. I can say, well, does that look right? No, that doesn't look right. Does that look right? And so again, you're getting instantaneous feedback. And because you're in the buffer that you're saving anyway, it just feels natural. All right, you can say remove the planets. You set the planets. Wait, there's some contention there, isn't there? Huh? All right. So again, the top level can be used to inspect your application. But not just the top level, right? You've got these functions being called while this game is being played, and you're like, I'm not sure if this P data here is, is it control? I'm not sure if this P data here is actually a planet coming in. So I just look at it. So this is print line debugging. And that's a compile error. Wait, that's another feature. All right. So this is print line debugging. And I got a nice sampling of data here, and I can just verify these are planets. You know, they have a position, a speed, a color, and a width. Great. So again, you can reach into functions, and because your program's running, normally your function's on the execution path, and you can actually get quick sampling of what's going on. You may have noticed this hey that comes up every single time. That's because I made this really simple macro. Now this is something that Figwheel does that its inferior competitors don't. Figwheel will, I don't know, I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me. Figwheel reloads your macros and then recompiles all the dependent files instantly. And so there's a bug in this macro. I'm trying to log the word hey, and of course it's treating it as a sequence instead of a string. And so there's this bug here. I save the macro, and then instantaneously I see that it's fixed. It's printing out the complete word hey. I mean, come on, hey. You know, I mean, what's happening there is kind of amazing. You know, you're in Clojure land, and everything kind of propagates instantly, and you see the result. So again, I'm advocating that Figwheel is pretty cool. So there's a heads-up display, right? There's a heads-up display. You see the green circle keep popping up whenever code is loaded. And the heads-up display also tells you when you have a compile error. And let's say if you're really wondering where that error is, you can just click on it, and it goes to the line in the file where you made that error. And I made another error. Somebody actually submitted a commit for this actually recently. For that particular exception does not have a line number, but somebody recently was very helpful and added that. This also is true for warnings. Now this heads-up display took me a long time to write because it's completely non-intrusive. It doesn't use any external libraries. It's just a div at the bottom of body, and it does everything internally with Java. You know, there's no extra code pulled in from the outside to do this. It's just pretty much straight JavaScript doing this. Now another feature is, you know, you're in this live programming environment. So if you create code that's generating warnings, you actually don't want that code to load, right? Because you want to keep your environment stable. And so right down here, whenever you generate a warning, or if there's something's auto-saved or something like that, it does not get loaded into your project until you get rid of the warning. All right. So, another thing that Figwheel does is reload CSS, which is kind of a minor feature, but actually turns out to be pretty helpful. So I just changed the CSS. It was instantly loaded. But this gives some insight, a little insight into this game here. I didn't really want to think about how to center the explosion. And so the rocket really is the size of the explosion. And this game is all div. It's all in the DOM. It's all divs. It's in Ohm. It's React, and it runs really quickly. It's a great. You can actually build quick demos now in React just to see how things work, and it's pretty great. All right, and then we'll go back. Now, we're going to talk about broadcast. I actually have this. So one of the things, right, when you're developing, you have how many devices and how many platforms you're needing to target, and it's helpful to see the same program running in two different environments at the same time. One of the things that Figwheel does is broadcast. So I changed the code, and it broadcasts the changes to all connected clients. And so you can see if there's a difference in Safari and Chrome, or if there's a difference on your phone and what you're doing on your desktop or the tablet. And so that, I'm going to keep doing that. So, and I can add the planets back. And so that, does anybody like that feature? All right. Okay, good. I'm going to keep asking for that. I need it. I really do. Now, besides broadcast, there's this other thing that people asked for that I really didn't want to do. And they wanted multiple builds. They're like, we have an admin build, and we have a dev build. These are both ClojureScript builds. And we'd like to work on them live at the same time in the same, line process. And so I don't know why I did it, but I did it. And so here we have tests running in one tab. So right now, there's two live builds going on. So I have tests running in one tab. I've got the application running in the other, right? And the difference between builds is that the test build is just getting the test code as well as the core code. So now, if I reload, both environments are getting this new information. One of the tests happens to be on center. And so if I change center, now notice the fave icon. There's a fave icon that's green. That means the tests are passing. And this is just CLJS test. And did you see it go red? Right? All right. And that's just because the code is shipping. The code is shipping both places. And the test runner is just the tests are just getting run every single time it gets new code. And so I'm not like creating a phantom JS thing. I'm not doing anything. I just have another tab open, and the tests are running in it. And we can fix it too, right? We can fix the test. And the code ships both places. Now there's a delay because the tab isn't focused, right? But you can focus the tab, and you can see. You can see your failures. I'm pointing at my screen, but I'm assuming you can see your failures. They're right here. Right? I can see it. Oh yeah. Okay, great. So and so that's now another thing though, like if I change, let's say I change the test. So if I change the test, code is not going to ship here, right? So you saw no green circle, and you saw this turn red, and code did ship here. So that, multiplexing builds where the right build gets the right code has turned out to be kind of helpful. So that is something else that Figwheel does. All right. So multiple builds. Oh! And so then I was working along. Now, I have to say thank you to the early ClojureScript REPL for not working at all. I mean, it would almost been better if it wasn't there, because you spend hours, right? You'd spend hours and then it wouldn't work. So it was a big motivator for me to create Figwheel, which I'm really glad I did. Like, if the REPL worked, I might not have done it. And I wouldn't have had broadcast, and I wouldn't have had multiple builds, and I wouldn't have had this on, save, reload workflow that I really have become accustomed to. So thank you, early JavaScript, ClojureScript REPL. But now the REPL started changing and becoming good, which is good. And I found myself in this position. I have a ClojureScript compiler running with all the compiler information, and I have a connection to the browser that's shipping code up to it. I think I need to include a REPL as well. So there's a REPL that comes with Figwheel, and it's different than other REPLs. Is this the right one? No, good. This is the right one. Okay. And it's different from other REPLs in that it shares state. It shares state with your application. So it knows what's going on in your application. Next time I'm getting somebody to type for me. crashverse.core. All right, so I'm changing namespaces, and I can just look at my app state. Oh, thank you, you guys. CrojureVerse? There we go. So I can just look at my app state. Now, if you guys have used other REPLs and connected them, like, say, in your application, a warning would get thrown and say, what's app state? I have no idea what app state is. This is sharing this compiler information. It's sharing the compiler information with your auto build process, with your REPL, so it knows what's where. So things like doc and all these things work pretty well. And let's see. I mean, you're having this direct conversation, right? Right? I mean, you're in your application. What was it? Remove planets. Ba-ba. Bang. And they're gone. And this REPL. Now, one thing about this REPL is that it's a broadcast REPL, which is a unique thing. It means you type your command, and anybody who's listening gets it. It's worth it, right? It's worth it. You only get one response back, and that is the fastest response. So, not perfect, but helpful. And what else is going on? So, this REPL multiplexes as well. Well, let me put this a different way. So you can only have a REPL into one build, though, because a REPL is built around a build configuration. So you have the dev REPL, and in this case, I have a test. So I have a test build and a dev build, but I can only have a REPL into one of them. So when I hit print, you're not going to see it here, right? It doesn't go to this connection. But this cool thing that I did, I can quit and then choose a different REPL. And now I have a REPL to the test build And I can print 2, for instance. And it only goes there, and it doesn't go here. I have no idea what that is. But, and I think there's something else about the REPL that I'm forgetting. But I'm going to quit back out of this one. Go back to the dev. Oh, yeah. You see all these Figwheel controls? Like there's, before we used to have a Clojure REPL, and then the CLJS REPL would boot on top of it, and it'd be kind of a second-class citizen. This takes a different view, and it just boots a ClojureScript REPL directly into your application, and then just gives you a few select operations that poke through the ClojureScript REPL into the Clojure process so you can control your builds. So let's say you want to, like, here's a function you can do. You can say switch, you can actually see the current status of your system. So I can see that the auto builder is actually running. I'm focusing on these 2 builds are building, and I have 1 connection for each of these builds. I can also do something like if I feel like something's funky, I can force a build. I can just switch to one of the builds. And now it's only auto building on the test build and sending code to the test build. So again, that's another feature of Figwheel. How's this look? Yeah? Okay. All right. Applause really fixes everything, you know? Even a dry throat. So I've just run through all these features. Anybody have any questions about anything I just showed you? Okay, gentleman in the back.
What are you using for the Is it on GitHub so we can
Yeah, Crashverse is on my GitHub account, so you can totally, and it's naive, you know, it was like a 15-minute, thing. It's super nice. I mean,
you're not going to build a bullet hell shooter with this?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, sorry, which one?
Oh, the gentleman in the back. Sorry, I didn't see the.
You're running 2 of these broadcast REPLs at the same time.
What?
Is it possible to run 2 of these broadcasting REPLs at the same time?
Like a dev and test? No.
Like, or just 2 tabs with 2 different REPLs?
Yeah, you could, but that would be a separate Leineken process.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So NREPL would be a solution for that. But yeah, we're not going to talk about that right now. So, unless somebody really wants to. Now, there's somebody else had a question? Yes.
Emacs slider integration.
So that's the same as the NREPL story. So in Clojure works really well for this. Does that make? So it's Clojure mode, but for inferior list mode. And so the NREPL story is coming online like in the next month or so because all these changes are coalescing. So it will, the CIDR story will be, actually, and it works with cursive, like it works in cursive. Yeah, right? Yeah, it works in cursive. Yeah, the NREPL for Figwheel works in cursive. And if you have it, and if you know what's going on, you can get it working in CIDR and everything. But yeah. Yes.
How do you broadcast the code to the client?
WebSockets? It's just. That's actually how I do it. With sound effects. All right. Yes.
So, is it safe to assume that the reason that I didn't see you using tab completion is also NREPL related?
Yes, that's correct. That is correct. That's why it looked really painful.
You did.
Yeah. Yes.
I saw a line depth option in those big wheels.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I can. The most important thing is this right here. But besides that, there are a bunch of libraries where you can just add them on the like. You don't want to reboot line, right? It takes a while, and you're like, oh, I meant to pull in moment, or I meant to pull in this library, but I'm gonna have, and I really want. I'm in the flow. I want to use it now, and so you can just add a dependency, and if it passes all the requirements, which sometimes are esoteric, it gets put in. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But like Ohm, there are a lot of libraries that do. They just come right in. And then there are some that have a more difficult dependency situation and they don't come in. But this just uses pomegranate underneath and tries its best to load the library. Yes, Sean?
Whenever you're showing the warnings with the line numbers, were you actually clicking that and it was somehow connected to your editor and it was bringing it to the editor?
Okay, that's a good question. All that Figwheel does in that case is it just shells out to a to a shell script of your choosing.
Okay.
So if your editor is sophisticated enough to listen to a shell script that has remoting capability, then it could just pop to the line number.
Okay.
Colin?
I'm gonna have those errors in the editor.
Oh, okay.
I don't want that in the browser. You want the editor.
Oh, yeah. Maybe you're wrong. Cursive, everyone. It's pretty awesome, isn't it? Come on. All right. Any other? Yes, sir.
Often React has a lot of initialization in a component mount.
So, wait, unfortunately, I can't hear you that well.
Oh, I said often with React programs, there's a lot of initialization in component mount. Is there a convenient way to have a particular component remount when you have new code?
So, Figwheel there's an on-load hook, but at the component level, no. But there's an on-load hook that you get with Figwheel where you can do your bookkeeping and stuff like that. Now, one of the things about Ohm or React Render is it re-renders the whole tree, right? I don't know if this helps your problem, but so you can have React Render at the top level, just re-rendering your whole tree every single time you make a change, and the state's maintained, and even in the DOM. So does that speak to your problem or no? Okay. Yes, sir.
Can it be extended to regular Clojure applications? ClojureScript.
Wait, am I hearing your question correctly? Now you want Clojure to be as good as ClojureScript? No. Sorry, I just had to take that. What?
Why can't it be connected to just regular, applications and reload them and use broadcasts and
That's a really, so you're saying you'd like a tool like this for Clojure. Yeah. I mean, the REPL's, the Clojure REPL is pretty powerful, and you could probably put a hook in your editor that on save, it shoves the file through the pipe. But, yeah, it's the same thing. Like, you could write something like this for Clojure, but the onus is on you to write reloadable code and then have a hook that just reloads it when you save your file. Does that make sense? You want me to do it, is what you're saying. Okay. Okay, yeah. The question is why not? That's probably not for me to answer, but I'm going to take it as a compliment, though. All right? Okay. Because that's just the way I am. All right. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned that it works with Node. Could you say a few words about how it differs or if it's pretty much the same?
It does work with Node. I know that some people are using it with Node. It is different. Node's a different environment because you don't have visual feedback, right? And so when I was working with Node and giving it a try, I was always printing things out, to the terminal to kind of see what was going on. So it's a different value proposition, but it can still be done. And I don't have a lot of experience with it, but the setup is the same. The setup is basically the same. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes, sir.
Pros and cons of Dome house living?
Are we already there? Wait, did you have a ClojureScript question? Or a,
On the topic of those last two questions,
yeah.
I realize that ClojureScript chose the Google Clojure compiler, and it's been working for a long time very well. What about Webpack, on the topic of all of this and your experience here, but, because it sort of has a lot of this auto-loading, hot-loading
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah. So I'm really tempted to talk about that, but I want to preface it with I've never used it. I've only read blog posts about it cursorily, right? I just skimmed them, right? And so now I'm going to answer it with authority. So hot module, I would say there's a problem in the JavaScript landscape in that they've chosen closures for modules. And so reloading them is much more difficult than the object literals that are in the Google Clojure system. Google Clojure system, you have basically a global object literal that has all your namespaces that you just redefine on load. So what they're having to do, right, is they're having to re-require these libraries and then walk up the. So my convenient phrase for it is it's point of require reloading that you kind of have to manage it. So everywhere this file is required, there's potentially you're going to have to manage its reloading somehow specifically. So that can grow arbitrarily large, right? And so whereas with Figwheel, it's point of definition. So you're reloading the code where it was defined, and it's getting pushed in. Now, again, like I said that with authority, but I have none.
One thing I did notice is your reload is quite fast.
Yes.
Every single time. Sometimes Webpack, and because of the things you're talking about, it takes time to do that.
Yeah.
Even for a very simple change.
Okay. So you've been using it.
Yes.
I-
Second, this is much faster than Hauman or Webpack.
okay.
Yeah, I can tell this is much faster than Webpack.
Wait, is it better though? Okay. All right. Dome living, pros and cons? Do people want to hear? Yeah. Okay. Oh boy. I just remembered this is on video. It's really great. I've been experimenting with domes for a long time, and my friend said, I really want you to build a dome in my backyard. And he told, I didn't believe him, but he said it for 6 years. And so finally I was like, okay. And then I came across a design that I came up with that I really liked. And so I did it. And it's small, it's 18-foot diameter. And it's a glorified bedroom, right? There's no kitchen, there's no bathroom, that's in the house. And it's really, I don't know, it's fun to build your own structure and live in it and then actually enjoy it. So I really like it. Some people, I was going to say some people don't like it, but that's not true. Okay. It might not be for some people having to go to the house to use the kitchen and whatnot. But, and I'm in the mountains in the southeast, and the climate's pretty nice most of the year. Most of the year it's pretty nice. And people always ask me, does it get cold? Is it too hot? It's really pleasant. It's really pleasant all around. Any other questions? Oh, wow. All right, so I just want to conclude with I really enjoyed myself here at Clojure West. You can find Figwheel, I think, pretty easily now. It's in my repository. Does everybody feel comfortable they can find it? At this point, I think you can type it in, and it's the only thing with that name. So, and if you want to play with Crashverse, it's in my repository as well. It should be at the top because I was messing with it. And thank you, everybody. This is really fun.